Hello?
Hi. How
Hey,
you
what's up?
doing? So I see correctly that you're a 5.5K carry coach or carry session here.
I'm actually closer to 6K now. I'm 5960.
How long ago were you 5,500 that you've climbed this much?
Um, Probably like a month-ish, maybe half a month.
Okay, cool. So why are you here, man?
Um, I don't know. I just kind of want to get your thoughts and opinions on just my play style overall, and just if you notice anything that seems like a glaring problem that is going to prevent me from climbing even further, to just help point that out and like help give advice on what to do that better, I guess.
Sure, man.
Banana slam jam.
Do you have a few games in mind today?
Yeah. So I have this one, because this one was kind of a hard game, and I guess they're both going to be Alchemist games, just because I've been playing that hero a lot recently.
Okay.
Um, and both of them, I'm sure I didn't play that well, but they just felt kind of difficult, and like I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
curious to get your thoughts.
Yep, sure. Let's see what we got. Do you want to learn more particularly about Alchemist or just general things?
Just general, I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, if there's like a glaring problem with Alch, then yeah, maybe save. But if it's just a small mechanical thing, I'm sure I'll work on it and figure it out.
You should consider leveling your acid spray level 1. It's really good.
Okay.
Your
Why is that?
your Greevil's Greed only gives you an extra 40 gold if you get both bounties, and your acid spray is just -4 armor that most offlaners can't really tank through. So it's like a way to secure range creep because you just plop it down and walk up. Just something to consider. I've seen a lot of people doing it,
Okay.
so I never considered it before either. But it looks like they're giving you the creeps anyway. You're only getting like, 15 gold or something from those. Okay, here we go. Fast forwarding. Is this NA?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So, I guess I'll ask just to start. What's your like thought process when you're gonna use acid spray? Like, why do you use it?
In lane, it's normally to get more harass, like because of the minus armor, especially if my support's able to like right click a little bit.
Okay.
Um, I don't think I use it that well all the time, but that's typically when I do use it.
Okay. So I guess the way I look at this is that, like, why did you use it here? I guess this is my question. When you used it right now, like, why? Why right now?
Um, I don't really have a solid answer, I guess. It's the best thing that comes to mind. When I did use it was probably to help secure creeps and keep the tusk off me, but like even then, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense because I actually miss creeps. I think I remember saying that.
So it's kind of funny. I don't get to coach high level carries very often. So you're somebody that might even be in my game sometimes. Is that when I look at this, how do you feel about the lane right now?
I know it's gonna push really, really hard,
Okay,
and
give me
we're
as much
also
description as you can give me.
uh,
It's gonna push, absolutely.
it's gonna push. We have a level advantage,
Okay,
and it should be hard for them to even contest these right now because there's so many creeps. I
okay,
feel like,
okay.
and so there's actually no need for me to use Q at all. That's kind of what I'm getting a sense
So
for.
the way I look at this is that you can use Q. Okay, sorry, I need to wake up a bit here. Okay, I slapped myself. So, um, the way I look at your Q is like I declare control of this area. Fuck off. And the best way to use these type of spells is to like have the most creeps die during them, and you want to use them before the creeps are dying rather than as the creeps are dying. Like it needs to be like um predicted and understood ahead of time that the lane's in your control, and if you plop it down, this area is now yours. So the way I look at this is like right now, if you just acid spray and just fucking hit this Tusk, you're gonna get all 4 of these creeps, and Tusk is gonna lose like 150 health, like right now, if you were to just acid spray. Do you see
Okay.
why that is? Like right
Yeah.
now? It's because there's nothing you can do about it, right? But by the time you acid spray, you've like already defensively creep aggroed. I feel like this Tusk should have just been ran at. Like you should have just been hitting him this whole time. You were level 2, he's level 1. You have a deterrent where if he fights back at all, you just plop down acid spray. You have 8 creeps. You know, like there's no way this guy should ever be allowed to even consider hitting that creep. Do you see like what I'm saying with the mindset you need to have with your acid spray? So when I watch NA carries, this is not meant to bash the region, but just how it is. You guys like play to hit creeps. You don't play any like. There's nothing else that matters to you. That's really it's and so it's like it's nice because when I try to convince, like I had like a 4K session the other week where this guy he wasn't. This was like 3 or 4 weeks ago where I had to convince him to think about the creeps being the only thing that mattered because he was so busy doing other things that he wasn't actually focusing on the creeps enough. But what I'm saying for you is that, like, you guys are just so passive, man. When I lane against like 6K, 7K carry players in NA, you guys are so passive, man. It's like there's an opponent in your lane, you know, like fucking hit him. So the moments that you need to look for, it's like I can tell you know how to defensively creep aggro. Level 1, of course. That's like what you're supposed to do. You're absolutely supposed to creep aggro there, like defensively, the whole time you were doing it. But the second you hit level 2 before they do, and I still see you playing defensively, that tells me that you're just playing for creeps in pretty much every lane, and that nothing else really matters to you. It's like what I see you could be set up for there was you would acid spray earlier, you'd hit him twice, he'd have like 2 hits worth less of health right now. You'd get all 4 of these creeps uncontested. And then if he tries to farm underneath his tower, you like rinse and repeat, and he might just feed like underneath his own tower. And best case scenario for him is that happens with him not dying. And I would also say, what do you think your Jakiro would do while you're like bullying the Tusk underneath his tower? Like what? Like right now, what would Jakiro do if you acid spray again here?
Just go pull.
Yeah, and then you're over here. This is like a perfect example of okay, there's like actually 20 factors here, but let's just like add them all up. So because you waited to acid spray, I need you to, okay. Name as many reasons as possible other than what I've already mentioned why waiting to acid spray was worse. Based on what you see in the lane right now, and like I'm showing your hero and everything.
I guess it's just like slower. That's what comes to mind for me. It's like the Tusk could have potentially died. We could have wasted regen too for it. Like we could have made him use regen. I don't know if he had a salve or not, but other than that, it's just kind of making, I don't know if this sounds correct, but it's making like the lane progress like a bit faster than just staticking it where it was. That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, so I'll give you. This is the kind of stuff that the reason why I don't get to discuss it very often is because, just quite frankly, if you try to tell this to like a 2K or a 3K, it just doesn't do anything. So here's how I envision this situation. Let me rewind. And I'm just telling you, basically, with all arrogance aside, this is the way you have to think if you want to reliably climb to like 8K, 9K. Okay, so I see this situation. Right now, the lane is unavoidably pushing, right? Like, there's nothing you can do to prevent it. So there's actually 2 options. Let's like completely like break this down. You could actually drag these creeps over here, and your Jakiro could pull. That's actually like a reasonable option right now. And based on what you see with your Jakiro doing, you could absolutely do this. He should have dragged down. You could have dragged the creeps to the right. But even if you don't do that, right now the lane is like nothing you can do. It's gonna push. So rather than like delay it, you want to accelerate this push like as much as possible. Because what's going to happen is if you acid spray 5 seconds later, it's funny because I don't even know this when I'm telling you it, but I've experienced it where I just know this is what's going to happen. So you wait to use your acid spray, and so you use it at the tail end of this, and look at what happens when the lane goes underneath their tower. Like, the lane's underneath their tower now, and you just don't have acid spray. So, like, you could be right here, but what if your acid spray was off cooldown 3 seconds sooner, 5 seconds sooner, 7 seconds sooner? You're up here, laying down another acid spray, bodying both of these guys. And it's because the longer you wait to use a spell, to use an ultimate, to buy an item or whatever, it's like the cooldown limit, the acceleration of your farm limit, like all these little things, it just slows down. Like, it just slows down the lane. I actually don't know how to better describe this. I'm like, I know you should have used it earlier, and there's just so many reasons why if you don't use it right away, it's going to backfire. So I need you to see this. I don't know if I'm reaching you here because I'm.
I understand.
Yeah, it's like this vision of your next acid spray. Like, if you acid spray right now, what's the lane going to look like 22 seconds from now? And you don't need to know that exactly, right? Because it's like, it's a very random cooldown amount. But the point is that you start to feel these things out. You're like setting yourself up for the next play. And so the foresight that you could have here is exactly what the lane's going to do. And then knowing that the sooner you can use your spell to have it up again, the better. It's like, if this was a 50-second cooldown spell, I wouldn't have wanted you to use it at all right here. I would have wanted you to be aggressive, though, and then look to use it up here. Do you see what I'm saying there? Yeah. So, like, it's kind of dependent on the spell, but the whole idea is I know this is what the lane's going to look like, and I know since I'm level 2 and they were just level 1 when this started happening, that I could still be aggressive when the lane's right here. And all you had to do was buy time for this to happen, right? Like, your Jakiro knows what he's doing, he's going to pull, and everything you do up here is such that he can do what he's doing over here. So, let's go ahead and, you are going to help body, so this is good. That is good. Good to see that. Let's fast forward a bit.
I don't know if this is right to do either, but I tend to throw acid spray down on like camps that are stacked when it's full just to get farm.
So what do you think of this acid spray placement? Why or why not?
I think it's fine because Tusk is really low and he's being
No, I'm talking about like where you placed it on the ground.
Oh, I mean, it could have been more efficient, I guess, and to the right and up a little bit.
Could have been like centered right here.
Yeah.
So this shit adds up, man. It adds up so much. I actually don't mind you acid spraying this at all. But first and foremost, what did you do when you were like? Describe your pattern of killing this jungle camp. How did you kill it?
I auto attacked.
Thanks and have fun.
I don't know if I'm looking at it right.
Yeah, no, it's funny. So, what is the potential drawbacks of what you're doing here with the acid spray and then the way you're killing the camp and stuff?
Sorry.
You've just achieved first
I think
Thanks and have
one
fun.
drawback is I guess I can have the CS stolen from me. And
Okay, why?
Because they have Skywrath Tusk, so they.
But
have
like, why can they
charge.
steal it from you based on what you're doing with the camp?
Because I'm letting. I don't know, actually.
Do you not see a problem here? Is this actually that hard to see? I'm not trying to be an ass.
No, I know. I'm just making all of the creeps go like really low HP, so they're able.
You're making them all be low at the same time.
Yeah.
So not only are you making it so all of them are sniped at the same time, but you're also making it so that if they manage to squeak their way over for half a second, all of those creeps are dying in XP range at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So do you realize how much higher skill it would require for you to know the lane, the acid spray is supposed to be centered right here because that prevents any contest, and then you're supposed to kill the small creeps as soon as possible, one at a time, such that all the creeps are dying to you. And if they get an XP range, they would have to be there consistently. And if they were to ever snipe a creep, it would be one of them. Do you see how big of a difference that makes for the exact same play you're making here?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? So the funny thing about you 6K players is you guys are usually on the right track. It's like,
like, everything you've done in this lane is pretty close. Like, I don't want you to, like, drastically warp what you're doing overall. Usually you guys are pretty good at, like, generally doing the right thing. But it's the way you execute it that's, like, just so off. Like, I'm just like, holy shit, like, there's this and that and this and that. I can nitpick the shit out of, like, the way you go about what you're doing incorrectly. So, a lot of it has to do with foresight into what's next. That's one thing. And two is, what if the opponent does something? So, like, an example would be if you were over here when you had 8 creeps and they had 4. If you don't acid spray and you hit the tusk, what are his 2 choices?
Turn on me and fight or run.
Okay, and if he runs, what are you going to do?
Just farm.
Okay, if he turns on you, what are you going to do?
Acid spray.
Okay, how do those options look to you?
Really good. Both of
Then
them.
why would you not run at him? If you know this, right? Why would you not run at him? Just tell me your best explanation.
I'm just not thinking about it, I guess.
Because you're thinking about the creeps. Because you're thinking about the fucking creeps. You're like, I want to kill these creeps faster. And this guy's not there. So the whole point is, you guys know how to kill creeps. I get that, dude. I get that. Like, you're not 6K by some fluke, okay? You guys know how to kill some creeps. Cool. So let's talk about the interaction with the opponent heroes while we're killing these creeps. So notice how everything you've done is about efficiently getting creeps. Like, if this jungle camp was you on your own little island, no one on the enemy team near you, how would I feel about the way you're killing this jungle camp?
Probably, you wouldn't really care.
It's efficient. You're doing it right. Your acid spray is getting max value because it's killing, you know, the longer you leave every creep alive, the more value you're getting out of acid spray. It's like, it's efficient. But it's ignoring the existence of the opponent. Like, that is 6K in a Dota incarnate right there. Everything you guys do, there's no opponent in the game. And I'm just like, dude, like, when I see it. So it's like, objectively, if we remove the enemy 2 heroes from the game, what you're doing is correct. But the step you're going to have to take it to the next level is adjusting what you're doing, the way you go about it, and when you use your spells based on the opponents and what they're doing. And a lot of it is gauging their decision-making as a response. It's like, if you're doing this, should they ever be okay with you farming a stacked pull like this? Right? No, they're gonna try to do something about it, or at least you should be prepared to do something about it. So, your solution here is you saying, I get to farm this jungle camp. Sick. My solution says, if they were to contest, it would be coming from this direction. So I'm going to center the acid spray right here. And if they're going to contest, they're going to throw out some long-range nukes to try to snipe these creeps. So I need them to all die at a different time. But that all comes from me gauging what they're going to do. Okay. Like, it's such a different mentality. It really is. But the thing is, you can get to 6K efficiently understanding what you're supposed to do. Okay, because do you see how none of this has been me flaming you for what you're currently doing? Like, you push the lane, you pull the big camp, you farm the big camp, you use acid spray to accelerate the farm. Nothing's wrong with any of this. From your player perspective, it's all efficient. But the potential counterplay from the opponent is so unaccounted for. So that's the big part for me. And I don't know if he ended up sniping one, but regardless, if you consistently do this crisis aversion of what the opponent's plays are, then random bad shit just doesn't happen. And as a carry, that's all carry really is. It's calculated prevention of bad shit. Okay, so you did have a cell, that's nice. They end up feeding. I think this is kind of a grief to yourself. You're gonna acid spray no matter what. And if you read this spell, it's like, it's so bad.
Okay.
Like, have you read this spell? Like, look at its scaling from level 1 to 2.
Just 3 gold.
It's 3 gold at max. So if you've gotten 7 creeps in the last 36 seconds, you get an extra 3 gold per creep. Okay. And then this spell, on the other hand, it goes from 20 to 25 damage, virtually the same mana cost, but it goes up in radius, and the armor reduction makes that damage amp even more, right? It's more like going from 20 to like 27. You know, that's like what this spell is. So when you compare the two spells mathematically, this one's just inferior. So this is definitely I want to hit creeps. This one is I actually have opponents in my lane.
Okay.
Same idea there. I'm not surprised I see this. And it's really, I want to be clear to you and everyone watching, I don't blame you, man. What I've come to the realization of, but something we can all work on together, is that most people, if they're trained to think like this, it doesn't matter if you try to do the things I'm telling you to do, if really nobody else is doing them. However, if you run into that rare guy in your lane that will also play the lanes like this, which I think this Shakiro's played the lane pretty well so far. I'll be honest. I think he's done a good job. He like pulled a small camp and then came over and helped you. Then you guys are just going to shit on lanes because the opponent doesn't think like this. It takes like 2 people to think like this. That's really what it takes. And at the end of the day, I understand why this comes to your head this way, but I don't want it to be meaning that it's okay to accept it. So let's rewind here. Why? Why acid spray right now?
Well, I personally felt like I was kind of at a like low HP, and I knew another wave was coming, and I knew Skywrath was coming back, and Jakiro didn't really have resources. So what I was trying to do was make sure that they don't have a shitload of creeps that they can just suddenly try to dive us with.
Okay. So what is a way that you can accomplish, if that is how you feel, what is a way you can accomplish the exact same thing without acid spray?
Aggro under tower?
Yeah. Dude, like, you're literally spending 130 mana for something the tower could do for you. Like, if that, I'm not arguing with whether or not you're correct about that, but you're choosing to use 130 mana, which you don't have to spare, right? Like, this is a relevant amount of mana to you to do something your tower could do for you. And all it's saving you from is CSing under tower, and you're actually taking a little bit of extra damage because you're actually tanking a lot of the creeps consistently. So you should know that the lane's going to push after that. Looks like you were fully aware of that. Your plan was to go pull large. So then my question is, did you expect in your situation to be able to do this?
I'd say a part of me knew that if the Tusk was good, he'd try to contest it, but
Okay.
I didn't really know what my other play was.
Okay. So now let's rewind for a second. Would you prefer 7-on-7 creeps meeting right here, or would you prefer the lane to be up here after you've farmed these 7 creeps?
I'd rather the lane be in front of my tower still as a carry.
Even if there's like 7 creeps, right?
Yeah.
This is the exact same shit. So the way you played right here, when would it be good? What you just did here was like, I'm going to shove the living shit out of this wave and then go pull large camp. When would that be good?
When they can't contest the pull.
Yeah, when they can't do anything about it, right? Like, and that is me gauging, like, you're good enough. I know you're good enough to know that when you do this, it's going to push the lane, and your only play to fix the lane is this. That's like your only play. And so you're right to me when you said, like, yeah, I didn't really know what else I was going to do. So then when it comes to decision making, it's whether or not that result where the lane ends up here is better than it's sitting right here with you guys getting contested. Both of them are not great. I admit that. Like, that's not, I'm not trying to say there was some secret answer here. But you and I both agree that you'd rather the lane be right here with slightly more creeps than the lane be up here. And so these are the type, I'll be right back. 1 second. Sorry, we ordered some food, so.
It's all good.
Okay. So this is the level of foresight that you're seeing it again. A lot of the laning stage for you to work on, like, moving forward from here, it's really like, what's the next creep wave going to look like? That's the first step of this rewiring of your brain that I'll need you to really focus on. What's the next wave going to look like based on my actions? And sometimes, I don't even want to say based on my actions, based on, like, what actions could I take to change it, but also just based on whatever the fuck's going on. It's like when you had 8 creeps right here, no matter what you do, the lane was going to shove. So then at that point, since you know it's coming, what can you do to like amplify it or minimize the negative impact, all that kind of stuff. And then once you do that, what's the opponent going to do about it? So it's like in the other case, it was great to accelerate the pushing of the lane because the opponent's level 1 stuck over here and your Jakiro is just going to pull the large camp. In this case, that's not going to work because the opponent's stuck over here, but both of you are pretty low and they can just stop you. So this whole push-pull thing doesn't work, and since you were in a situation where you didn't have to do it, you can now take responsibility for putting yourself in this situation. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's... the thing about Dota, man, just to be clear to you and everyone, is obviously the higher MMR you go, the more very specific I have to get with you. But my question is, would you feel comfortable moving forward from this? It's not going to be something you're going to like instantly fix or whatever. But do you feel like what I'm telling you is helping in a general sense of laning?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, I've been playing chess lately because I just got into it. And, I mean, from what it sounds like to me, it's just like the same thing of trying to like think about what your opponent's going to do before you make a move.
Yeah,
Like,
it's thinking like 2-3 moves ahead, right? You can't plan the entire game out, but you can
Yeah.
assume if you make this move, he's going to make that move, and then you'll want to make this move, he'll make that move. And then from there, you'll have to decide, is that situation good for you? Right?
Yeah, the thing for me is I'm just going to have to practice like actively thinking about that in the game.
Yeah, for sure. It's so the reason why I bring this up to you and what I'm saying in my games that I get really frustrated is when like it's like I'm only 8.8, but at the end of the day, I do have competitive experience and I've spent a lot of time at tournaments. And the way I'm talking to you is the way these like these high team, like these competitive level players think about Dota. And it's really frustrating, even if somebody's pretty high MMR, to play with them when they don't think like this, right? Like when you can just tell, like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, that would be nice 80% of the time or whatever, but they're just gonna stop us. Like, why are you trying to pull that? That's not gonna work. You know, like that's not gonna fucking work. And the thing is, you can get to like 7.5, maybe even 8, depending on how skilled you are. Not necessarily thinking like this, but the thing is, if you guys want to reliably climb and you yourself want to like, this is something that's going to be consciously improved upon over time, right? It's not going to be something where you fix it and then now you're good. It's like, now that I think like this, I'm always getting better about it. You know, I'll miss things that I didn't know about. I'll misjudge what I thought was going to happen. And it's a whole, like, you know, journey down a dark road that we all feel like we know more, and then you realize you know less because you know more. Like, that's pretty much how it is. So, okay, so you're pretty much just playing a dodge game. I think the dodge game you're playing is reasonable. I would have even strongly considered pulling that small camp at 445.
Stack.
Yeah, right.
I just have a quick question actually before we keep going.
Go ahead.
So like, how would you like try to implement this and like if you were just starting to practice like this kind of foresight stuff? Because obviously you can't like I'm not gonna just get into the next game and just like be a god and like
Yeah. So it's
kind of like a stepping stones.
I'd say the first step, simply put, is acknowledging it's possible. I know that sounds weird, but like you as a 6K player should be able to tell me what the lane's going to look like 30 seconds from now based on whatever action you take. Like, you need to know that's possible, right? So then every action you do, you need to think about 30 seconds from now. So, like, it's like, make a gauge, first off, based on if you take no action, what's the next creep wave going to look like? And what are you going to do with it, right? So you're basically saying, if I make this move, that'll be my next move. But that's the thing is, like, you just have to start thinking like that, because if you don't need to overcomplicate this for yourself. You need to start considering what the game's going to look like 30 seconds from now consistently. You need to make an educated guess as often as humanly possible. You might even want to try, like, if you have like a Smurf account that's like 1,000 MMR lower or something, like not, like 2K, but like, like a 5K account, something like that, where you like, because what's going to happen if you do this? You're just going to fuck up. You're going to fuck up so many times because you're like, why are these 9K players missing CS in a lane? And it's like, when I tell you this, you realize how much they're thinking about. Like, when they're literally just hitting a creep, right? So
Yeah.
my point to you is whatever it takes for you to feel comfortable kind of spacing out from what you're usually used to thinking about. Like,
Okay.
I don't, because it's going to be a bit of a, it's like, you're on kind of a crutch right now where the fact that you're focusing purely on CSing, it's like nice and all, but eventually it just ain't gonna work. You know, like eventually it just won't be good enough. And so I encourage either a second account that's pretty close to MMR or
Yeah, I have a Smurf that's like 50 or 5,000. Right
yeah, if you have that, that's a perfect account that just play like 10 or 15 games where everything you do, you're thinking like 30 seconds ahead. Because at that point, like the funny thing is when I go on my Smurf to learn, I usually lose. Even though I'm on an account that's like 1,000 MMR lower, I still lose. So, if people are out there like BSD encouraging Smurf, shut the fuck up, guys. It actually helps to learn. If you're taking that pressure off yourself and you're putting yourself in a slightly easier situation to focus on something you've never focused on before. I think it's really important. It's kind of like putting some like training wheels on or whatever. So I highly encourage that you just drill into your head. You are capable of thinking 30 seconds ahead, and every move you make, like, what's the next creep wave going to look like? What's the next creep wave going to look like? What am I going to do with it? You know, like, whenever I think about the game, these decisions, they're, like, intertwined. It's like, I use that first acid spray because I know the tower is it's gonna be into their tower, and I know I'm gonna want to use the acid spray to bully underneath their tower or to zone them away from my pole camp. I know I'm gonna want to use acid spray again. I don't know exactly how yet, based on their response, but I know I'm gonna want to use it again. So I need you to start thinking like that. That's the first. That's the first step for you.
Okay.
Don't overcomplicate it. So here, I definitely think you could have either pulled at 445 or just stacked, because that would have fixed the lane equilibrium for you. So the stack means you think it's less likely for them to walk over. The pull means you just fix the lane right away, kind of thing. So that's kind of up to you. That's the drawback of stacking, is they would have some time to walk over, and whether or not you mine that is the decider factor there. Bet you wish you had that 130 mana from earlier in the lane.
So,
Okay. Get salved. Yeah, this Jakiro's a bro. Acid spray placement very poor once again. Like this Skywrath mage, man. He shouldn't be able to walk right here with no acid spray on him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
very small details, but they add up. This guy might even die. He dies anyway. But. Okay. I'll just tell you, man. 6K players are not prepared for you to think about what they're gonna do. They are not prepared. That guy will see that you pulled the large camp and be like, oh shit, this guy laid an acid spray here, but he's already gonna walk in the acid spray. It's what happens. Like, they'll be like, oh, I gotta go contest this. And they're like, wait a minute, this guy's already thought about it. Like, whenever I play against better players, I feel like they're almost in my head. Like, they know, like, whatever I do as, like, the optimal response to what they're doing, I can tell in some minor or major, depends, way they've accounted for it. And so that, like, right there, it's you're seeing it, I hope, add up in these little bits and pieces. Like, if he had barely gotten away, you would know why. So you're gonna walk over, you buy the Void Stone.
This is where shit gets kind of awkward. I feel like I started playing kind of bad here, because, I don't know. I didn't really feel like staying in the lane, but, just, I don't know.
So you're against Sky Tusk, so they don't really pressure your tower. So the way I look at those types, so I consider Sky in the realm of griefing you type offlaners, because it looks like he's the core. So in these types of situations, my question would be, can you occupy the lane versus Skywrath Mage alone?
Probably not. I don't think so. Not even, like, I know
I'm saying if it's 1v1, will he kill you full to 0?
if he's level 6.
You think he'd kill you full to 0? Is there anything you can do to, like, not allow that?
I mean, I have my ult, right?
Okay.
And maybe I can buy some raindrops, but I don't think that's...
My question is, if you bought raindrops and a full wand, do you think he would still kill you full to 0 with your ult on?
Probably not.
Okay. So the issue I have with your farming patterns right now is, as a carry, you have to understand that if you can't occupy the lane, it's very unlikely... Okay, there's a lot of lanes you can leave, okay? So if the lane that you're leaving is a lane that just shoves it into your tower and it leaves you vulnerable to diving, that's when a lot of times it's good to throw a support down there, because they're going to do exactly what you do. They're going to like use their spells, nuke it out a little bit, and if the opponent mid ever comes bottom, they're just going to dive you, right? So in that case, it's great to leave the lane to a support. In other cases where it's like a Beastmaster with Necrobook, at that point you're either responding with 3 or 4 or you're just ditching, right? If you're dealing with a kill lane, something like a Viper or a Skywrath or anything like that, these are the type of heroes, I call them grief heroes, where they kill you, but they don't actually hit your buildings. Like, your buildings shouldn't die. But if you're able to occupy lane against those heroes with any semblance of reasonable purchases and playstyle, you have to do it. Because if you can't do it, anyone else will just die as well. So what ends up happening if you look at the map control is the enemy team starts to run at you here. The way I want you to think about this triangle is if they run at you bottom, you then go here.
Okay.
And it makes it so much more difficult for them to interfere with your farm. The reason why I bring this up now is because this is Foresight. If they fuck with you at your triangle, where do you go?
Fucking nowhere.
You can't go anywhere. And that
Am I
understanding has to be there such that you go bottom. You understand why it's so important, if at all possible, to lane bottom. Because if they go bottom, you just leave. You just go to tier. Right?
So from what I understand, and it comes with the Foresight too, because I was thinking about that as you were talking about it. It's kind of almost like I need to force a reaction bottom before I make a move elsewhere, unless I absolutely can't lane there.
So
Kind of
yes, there's multiple types of farmers, and Alk is a farmer that really does nothing for himself. Anti-mage, same idea. What I mean by that is if they run at you, you kind of have to dodge them, right? Like, if you're like a Terrorblade or a Drow, you might just defend yourself. You know, like if they try to fuck with you, you might just like pop meta or have like 1 or 2 of your teammates stand in front of you and then you kill people with Drow, right? Like these type of farmers who usually jungle at this stage, they can maybe just default to triangle because, like, yeah, sure, I dare you guys to walk up the high ground and fuck with us because we'll just kill you, right? But on Alchemist and Anti-Mage, maybe even like a Dusa super early,
You kind of just cut with your pants down.
yeah, you need to run away from them. So the triangle is pretty much your last resort. And like if you go here right now and nobody else goes bottom, just look at the map for you guys. And it's so easy for them to interfere with you. Like they just know you're here. Like they know you're somewhere here. So like if I smoked as an enemy, I could just place a ward like right here or here. And I know if I don't see you, you're right here. I just know that. But it's like if you're bottom and we have to boot you out first, you have a ward that sees us, we TP to bottom. By that point, you TP top, push out the lane real quick, then you clear the triangle. By the time we get here, you've already cleared all this shit, and you're going to like gauge what to do next, right? You've already cleared all this stuff though. So it's like, that's why it's so important to do this. And forcing reactions doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of a tower or shoving in a lane. Forcing reactions can simply be this Skywrath saying, why is this guy fucking laning against me? I'm a Skywrath mage. But the fact is, you can lane against him if he's alone. Like, if he's absolutely alone, you can totally lane against him. But, like, if you add, like, a Tusk into that equation or a Queen of Pain into that equation, you know, you're probably just going to die. So that's why, in this situation, let's just, like, rewind for a second. I think it's totally fine for you to leave bottom lane here because of what was happening. But you need to make your default to walk back towards bottom anytime it's pushing, in a sense that, like, you're ready to go back if there's nobody there. So my question is, if you walk right, meaning you kill this camp, and you walk to this big camp right here, if you then see the Ricky TP bottom, or the Tusk TP back bottom, how do you feel about going to the triangle?
I feel much better.
You feel good, right?
Yeah.
But if you walk left, and nobody goes bottom, how do you feel about going to the triangle?
It's a bit more dangerous.
You just, at any given moment, the Sky could just TP there and they're all there, right? They could just run at you. this is an example where I don't see the Tusk yet. I don't necessarily know who they're like what their gankers want to do. And by walking left, I have no counterplay. I have nowhere else to go. And by walking right, they either have to walk at me and make me leave, or I just stay where I am. Do you see how that?
Yeah,
It's
it's
such
like
a-
that Foresight shit again.
Yeah, it's the same shit. And that's why when I tell people what they're doing wrong in the lane, always applies later on in the game. It like always applies, like the same mindset. Like I want to train you guys to think a certain way in the lane. Sometimes it can be as simple as like, itemization that I talk about. And then sometimes it's like this, where it's foresight on farming patterns. This shit matters a lot. Because now that you're here, it's just like, okay, now what? If they come here, now what? So we're gonna play this out.
It's pretty.
Oh, what a surprise, we got heroes in our face. Okay. But at the end of the day, they don't have like the best lane shoving, ganking heroes. Like they have really bad lane shoves, other than Coddle. So you're gonna get your battlefield.
Could definitely tell by watching this though, like I'm kind of just playing and then reacting instead of like trying to think about what my moves are doing for my game.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. So my question is, okay. God. Rewind fast far enough, you bastard. Okay. So you finish this big camp. When you finish this big camp, what are your 2 choices? 3 choices.
3 choices. Well, it's too early to wait for them to respawn. I could go top, I could go mid, or I could go jungle. The other jungle.
Ancients, right? Your top mid
Oh,
are
are the ancients alive? I didn't see them.
Yeah, you end up farming them right now. Like
Oh.
I rewinded.
Shit,
So
my bad.
So
Then,
my
yeah,
question
ancient-
is, what should guide your decision making the most, based on what I've told you so far?
probably pick the play that's the best and also the hardest to counterplay from the perspective.
Wait, so you're telling me you're supposed to pick the best option?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, that's why he's 6K, guys.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, you're good. So, nah, I'm just fucking with you. So, my response is one that props a reaction from the opponent. Okay.
Okay.
So if you as a carry, no matter how farm heavy or useless you are, if you can prompt a reaction, you always should. So based on their heroes and what you see on the map right now, you see a Skywrath Mage Coddle bottom, you see a Queen of Pain mid, and you have a Pangolier pushing top. What lane would prompt a response and why?
I would say. Fuck, I gotta think about this one. It's between 2 lanes for me. I honestly am not too sure. I think it's top or mid, and
Of course, it's top or mid. That's where you are on the map. I'm not trying
Yeah,
to.
I
be
think,
rude here.
I think mid would actually prompt more of a response because isn't that tower like giga important like every game?
Okay. So, this is the kind of shit where I'm just telling you guys, it's so fucking obvious to me, but I know a time in my career where this wasn't. And this is something I think about easily now, and it feels really nice to see that. I just want to tell you, it does feel really nice to see how much of a discrepancy there is between the way you think about the map and I do. And it's not meant to be like, oh, it's amazing, it feels amazing. It's like there's just so much potential for players of your 6K like around that area to grow. So let me hope I can just rewire you a bit here. So if you walk mid and push it or defend it, what would be the reasonable reaction from the opponent? Like, if they were to respond to what you did, what would be the reaction?
I would say TP like maybe a +1. I don't think I really threaten their tower that much.
You don't really threaten the tower. So what would happen is, right now, you don't threaten the tower, right? So let's think about this. You know what? I'm actually gonna let's rewind it a bit. Right now, if your hero's forcing a reaction, what is the opponent thinking that causes them to react?
Oh fuck.
Like, why are they reacting to anything you're doing?
Because fuck. I don't know. I don't know if I'm thinking about this right.
No, you're fine. So if you're on the opponent team and you saw an Alk doing something, why would you do anything about it? He's not killing your
'cause he's an
towers.
alchemist.
He's a fucking Alk, so why are they reacting?
To slow me down.
Slow you down. So what? Let's ignore objectives in the fucking game. How do you make them react the most significantly to you?
Just show in a lane, I guess.
To show in a lane, but what lane?
Fuck.
The lane that is the furthest away from the people that would react to you.
Oh, okay. So like I see like 2 people bottom. It would probably be top lane then.
It has to be top. Like, if you just walk down the lane at top, what are they going to do?
They're just gonna TP there
They're
and
going
I
to
get
take 2 heroes there, and then what do you do?
leave.
Where do you go, though, specifically?
Bottom,
Bottom or
mid,
Or?
triangle.
Ancients? You could go to either of the other 2 options. Do you notice how if you walk mid and they like chase you from where they are to your ancients, there's nothing you can do. But if you walk top, they have to TP there, don't they?
Yeah.
And then you just walk back to where you are right now, and then you stack ancients at 1054 and farm them.
Okay.
And you have 30 seconds to make that happen. But like, if you farm the ancients right now, what are you doing for the next 30 seconds?
Nothing.
Like, literally nothing. There's nothing to fucking do on the map. And it's crazy because I can come to the conclusion that you're not supposed to farm these ancients because I look at the map right now, and if I farm these ancients and those 2 heroes bottom walk mid, where do I go? Literally nowhere. Like, there's actually nowhere. But if I were to walk top right now, they would either TP top and respond, or they're going to lose damage on their top tower, and I'm going to see where they go from there, and I'll have so many choices. Because they have to do something about top. They have to. Like, the Ricky isn't going to bully you away from top. And the point is, you have to force them to look at you and say, I need to do something about that. But then you also have to be not so far up that you just, like, die to their reaction. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just let the Tusk TP in and snowball you and kill you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's like the next step, but the first step is to understand that you need to force a reaction. So the funny thing is, going into this, if I tell you guys as a carry, you just need to force reactions. As an Alk, the reaction is that they just don't want you to hit creeps. Like, that's their reaction. And like, you don't have to do anything fancy. Just make them think, wow, that guy's far away. That's annoying. You know? And it's like, so if you go to triangle, they know where you are. If you go bottom, they have to get you out of bottom, and then you go to triangle, and like, damn, now we have to go find him at the triangle. You know, like, that sounds more annoying from the opponent's perspective. Like, and all you're doing is still hitting creeps, you know? It's like, if there's no amount of items you could ever buy to solo lane against Sky, then sure, don't do it. But if you can buy items that give you a backup plan on the map, that's like the dream. That's like the fucking dream. And that's how these people are so good at farming, is they evade the opponent so well. And that's all it takes on like Alk AM, is this stage in the game to understand you're just evading people. You're just making them, like, you're making them be less efficient because they're chasing you more than they're actually finding you. So now they run towards your triangle and you're like, oh shit, I guess I'll go here. But quite frankly, you're doing absolutely nothing by being here. You're kind of like losing your tower. You're kind of like forced to be near this fight. If they push mid tower, what's your reaction? It's like, you just keep hitting jungle creeps. If you kept staying top, then you could threaten this tower. Even though you're just an Alk, you're not like trying to take the tower. You're trying to make them react to defending the tower. And then you go bottom. It's like, your laning presence on the map right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, is what?
Like, of importance to the enemy?
Yeah, like, your
Like a 10.
influence... No, sorry. Your influence on what lanes are getting pushed and shit, how much are you influencing this game?
Oh, right now, 0.
0. Like, literally 0. And the thing about Alk is, if you're just like a 3 or a 4, you're playing Alk correctly. You don't have to be like a fucking 10, because that's just not possible. You're an Alk at like 11 minutes into the game, right? So... But the thing is, if you can be like a 3 or a 4, you just be a little annoying, force a reaction here or there, then that's like, that's what I'm trying to get you to go for. And so that's why, you know, we've already talked about a lot here, but, you know, you can keep seeing through my lens as you play, hopefully. So, let's see. They're collapsing on mid. You're going to TP top. The issue with this TP is what if they just bring 4 heroes here? Okay. My life in a nutshell. I can teach you that one. Okay. This is why it's the same idea as when you're really strong and you don't TP to your own safe lane. Because if every TP you make as a carry, you have to ask yourself one question. What if they bring 4 heroes here? If the answer is you're fucked, you're not allowed to TP, ever. And there is no way that you could tell me that if you TP top right now and they bring 4 heroes, that you're okay with it. Are you okay with it?
No.
No! Then you can't make this TP. It is the only question you have to ask yourself. As a carry that's farming. If your job is to farm, if they bring 4 heroes to me, because that's what they're going to do. Like, they're going to do it. Like, come on. It's like when you pull the big camp, they're going to contest you. When you TP as an Alk, what are they going to do? They're going to fucking bring 4 heroes. Like, what else are they going to do? Come on. Like, let's not be noobs. How can you guys call yourselves the top 1% of the Dota community and do that TP? Like, I'm not actually upset with you, but you see how obvious it is, though, right? It's like, holy shit, that's going to happen 80% of the time at 6K level. It's going to happen 100% of the time at my level. Actually, I don't even say 100%. It will happen most of the time at my level, and it happens less than I think it should at my level in pubs. Whenever you hear me in pubs and say that guy shouldn't be allowed to do it, it's usually because he TP'd, and then we just do nothing. And I'm like, could we just kill that guy, please? But okay. So you're gonna walk mid.
Dominating, I guess. This is Gabe dominated.
Nope.
Oh, you're gonna do that first? Okay. Yeah, that was a pretty bad priority there. Thing about it is, they were just top. If you push mid and then fall back to bottom right, what are they gonna do?
Nothing.
Okay, so here's how I need you to see it. Here's how I need you to see it. See them on the map right now?
Yeah.
If you farm this camp to here, what do you think about your farming patterns and relevance to the opponent team?
I'm
going from here to here.
In relevance to the opponent's team.
Yeah.
Like, are you asking how what the opponent's going to do in that time, or how they're going to respond to that?
Okay, hear me out. I'll just answer
Sorry.
my question. You are farming towards the opponent.
Oh, you want to farm back, and I didn't do that. That's why I was like...
So whenever I'm farming, it is actually a very important understanding. Do I want to farm towards the opponent or away from them? If you're like the Ricky, or like a troll, for instance, like a hero that wants to pressure a little bit, you're the hero that farms towards the opponent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an important understanding. Do I want to farm towards the opponent or away from the opponent? So whatever order of operations you do here depends on that. Yeah. For me, it's so fucking obvious you're supposed to farm this first, then this, and then this. And what are they going to do about it? Because they're right here right now.
Yeah.
Like, while you're doing this, they're doing this. And you're just doing this. And then their natural thing is to chase you all the way here. You push out this wave with acid spray, and then what? You just rinse and repeat it. You TP top. But at that point, you had forced like 3 heroes to chase you all the way to here. So TPing top's okay. And if they respond to you top because they TP'd, you can just do this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're farming towards the opponent here. And there's no way, if I asked you, man, are you trying to farm towards the opponent? That you would say, yes. There's just no way. You know better than that. There's no way you're thinking, I want to farm closer to the guys on the enemy team. So when I said relevance to the opponent team, your entire pathing here walked straight into where they just were. Like, you literally just walked right where they were. They didn't even have to chase you. They had one guy that just corralled you back towards them, and then you just ran straight into them.
Yeah.
So this TP is a bit nerve-wracking. I I don't hate it, I guess. Because bottom lane's not even, the tower's still there. I'm gonna walk back towards Ancients.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really have a very good idea on how I wanted to play this game after dying, like, right there. Because I just felt like, and like I see now that like all of it is just because of the choices that I was making and where I was like putting myself at certain times. But to me, it just felt like they were always fucking right where I was farming.
Okay, so
yeah.
do you understand that if you don't see it ahead of time, you can't do anything about that? That's like literally the only solution. Have I made that really clear to you?
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard. Like, do you believe me? I don't mean to like say that, you know.
If you don't see it ahead of time, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, yeah.
And do you think you could have actually prevented what they did?
Yes.
Okay,
Like,
that's all I'm asking. That's what I'm making sure. Because just the way you're wording it, it sounds like you still pseudo believe you couldn't have done anything. Or is that not the case?
no, that's not how I meant it. Like,
Okay,
I was just...
okay. I'm just making sure. That wasn't. Maybe it's just your overall tone online that I'm misunderstanding that.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, we'll move on to this next game real quick. The thing about Alk is every hero's a bit different, but I would say his hardest moments in the game is like 7 minutes until 11, because you don't rapidly clear waves, but you're also playing like the dodge game, right? So that's like really hard for him because you can't force reactions at all in regards to like actually pressuring towers, but you're gonna get ran at consistently. So a lot of foresight and a lot of evaluating like what the opponent's currently doing to be as inconveniently placed on the map for them as possible. That's how I kind of look at Alk. So I think you might be overbuying regen. Like, I feel like I'd probably prioritize 2 branches over the second set of tangos. You did it twice, just something to think about. Yeah, you're against Sand King and you... Yeah, I think your landing stage will go far better if you level Acid Spray level 1. Like, that range creep would most likely be yours. Okay. If it gets you 1 creep, it was worth it. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. Okay. Defensively aggroing.
Kind of just default to doing that. I don't know if it's always the right...
Okay. On a scale of... You know what? I'll ask you. This is a fascinating one. So, what... Can you describe the situation for which Axe, as an offlaner, in lane, like the parameters of what's going on in the lane, makes him strongest? Axe.
For an Axe?
Yeah.
When he has... If he puts points in counter helix, which I'm sure he will, when it's kind of like an LC, right? Like if they just fucking run at you to get the creeps to aggro them, and then you're trying to fight.
So Axe is specifically the strongest when all of the creeps are
hitting him.
Okay.
I mean, that's my idea of it.
Okay. So what else is good about Axe, like early levels?
Battle hunger is pretty
okay,
strong.
So what about battle hunger makes him stronger? Like, when is battle hunger strongest?
When there are no creeps to last it.
Okay. So when the enemy creeps are full health.
Yeah.
Right? So I need to ask you now. At what point is Sand King the strongest?
Well, it's when my creeps are like low health, right?
When your creeps are low health. So how do you think I feel right now about you playing passively?
Pretty shit.
Why?
Because I could be pressuring him because he can't threaten me.
You're level 2, he's level 1, all your creeps are full health. What the fuck are you doing? You have, like, no reason to be afraid of this guy. Like, literally 0. So when you say you default to defensively creep aggroing, you defensively creep aggro when you're afraid of the guy. If my creeps are about 2/3 to 1/2 health, that's when I start to defensively creep aggro. Because if I do it when they're like 1/3 health, what happens?
They just get denied.
No. So when my own creeps are 1/3 HP, like imagine these creeps right here were 1/3 health, your green ones here, and you tried to walk up and defensively aggro these. What is a good Sand King going to do?
He's just gonna kill them and
He's gonna hit it and burrow strike you, right?
Yeah.
So I have to do it when they're like half. I have to do it where he can't hit them and then burrow strike. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's when I would defensively creep aggro. But I would want to defensively creep aggro as close to that point as possible, because any time before that, he's pretty weak, actually. Think about it, right? He's literally got a spell that does nothing. Like, it literally does nothing. So that's how you need to think about defensively creep aggro. There are miniature power spikes in laning, my friend. Miniature ones. Very miniature. And the reason why I asked you about Axe beforehand is because I think we are jaded towards understanding like what's happening right in front of us. It's like, if this guy level 1's caustic, if my creeps look like this guy is a useless piece of shit. He's got 2 base armor and 54 damage. You've got 58 damage and acid spray. Like, fucking hit this guy. You know, like, what is he gonna do? Like, you're Alk, so on average, I'd say you're quote unquote weak. But if he's at -2 armor with less base damage than you and no spell that actually does anything, and you're level 2, like, dude, you know, like, objectively, you are way stronger than this guy. Just objectively, if you really like add up all the components of this shit. But the problem is, you guys just don't think like this. You don't think like, is the lane currently good right now? When's it gonna be bad? When does that change? Like, all I ask myself is, am I stronger than this guy at this exact moment? And when will that change?
Okay.
Like, if I'm stronger, when am I weaker? If I'm weaker, when am I stronger? Like, that's how I think about it. Because all you have to do is be able to recognize the conditions in which it changes. Otherwise, your playstyle just remains the same, right? Otherwise, you just kind of keep, like, if you're weaker than the guy and you just keep defensively creep aggroing, like, that's always going to be correct, right? But if you don't know when you're stronger, or if you miss the opportunity when you're stronger, then you'll just keep defensively creep aggroing even though you're stronger, and that's not good, right? Like, we don't want that. So, right here, I'm just seeing, like, now, if you ever try to be aggressive on him right here, it's bad, because, like, all that creep dies. Now, look at this. Now, no, go close.
Thanks.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I just want to remind Chad, 95% of you or more are worse than him. Just remember that. How obvious was that? Dude, you went up to a Sand King when 2 creeps were low. Dude, that's so obvious. But yet, if you don't think about it like that, it's really not obvious if you don't think about it. So that's why it's so crystal clear when you do think like this. But I wouldn't expect you to do any of this right if you don't think like this. So hopefully after the session we got like a drastic rewiring of your brain for Dota.
Yeah, I mean, after this, I'm planning on just playing on my Smurf for a while and trying to practice this.
Yeah, you just need to.
I really think it just all stems from that, because I know if I can think about it properly, I can make the right choice. But the thing is,
And in the short term, I think you fully understand that if you do this, you're gonna botch like all the random shit you normally do correctly. Like,
yeah,
that's just how it is, right? You're gonna botch it all, and that's why I encouraged it. If you're just gonna practice it, because you'll feel like a dumbass a lot. It's like when I'm practicing a new hero, or like after the Quake sessions. Do you know what happened to my MMR right after the Quake sessions?
it tanked a little bit.
I lost like 200 or 300, and I was like, God, I know I'm learning so much, and yet like the thing is, here's what happened after the Quake sessions, guys. I'm gonna tell you just so you can tell that I'm empathizing, and I also like I fully understand. Is that I realized that when the opponent's winning and I can't fight them, that the way I had to play the map, I really never truly understood. Okay, I had to like completely warp the way I played the map. So what do you think happens there? I'm put in a bunch of situations I've never been in before. I'm like split pushing a really dangerous area that I'm technically allowed to be in, but I have to sometimes preemptively TP to get out of there, or like I have to know what they're gonna do in response. But guess how good my gauge was of what they're gonna do in response. It's not very good because I've never done it. It's like the funny thing is like I'm like, oh, I could have left earlier there, or oh, I could have cut that wave and dipped, or like, oh, I could have stayed there a bit longer, or whatever. But I didn't actually know that situation that well because I've never been in it before. So I'm now telling you to think about a lane in a way you've never thought about it before, and so you're just gonna do a bunch of random shit that you're like, oh, and in the short term it's gonna tank. And you guys at home need to understand as well that that's, if you're gonna learn, it's gonna tank in the initial process. Okay, so let's see what happens. The thing about this lane is it kills you, but if it's not with Caustic plus Burrow, then you're not gonna die. So he's got pretty much control of the lane now. See, this is when you're supposed to acid spray it. Right fucking now. Right fucking now. You acid spray right fucking now. You understand that now?
Mm-hmm.
You understand that, right? Right fucking now.
Yeah.
I would walk up, acid spray, and kill the range. Why would I kill the range?
Because he's kind of held hostage here, right? He has to either commit and then stay in the acid spray, or walk away and then.
And it's the creep that dies the fastest and has the most importance to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts me the most out of position to kill it, right?
Oh, you're talking about his range creep.
Yeah, his range
I thought
creep.
you were talking about the range creep that was low there.
No. I'm saying right now, I acid spray and I walk up to that fucking enemy range creep and kill it.
Okay.
You see that though? Like why that's so important? And if he sandstorms and starts attacking these creeps down to low and you think you're about to die, what's your contingency plan here?
My contingency plan. Fuck, dude. My brain hurts.
No, you're fine. If you walk up with acid spray and you're like, I'm gonna kill this range creep, and suddenly your ally creeps start dying sooner than you thought they were, he's gonna land a double or triple caustic on you. How do you salvage this situation?
I mean, you could just run up, but I don't know what that really does. I guess I don't really have a good answer.
Well, what is required for you to die here? I've told you already.
Your creeps to be low and you to be near them.
So if you're near them and they're low and they're about to die, what is your contingency plan?
Fuck!
You fort, dude! This is a play I would make if I have fort.
Oh, interesting. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, so do you realize that the reason why I come to that conclusion is because I think 2 steps ahead of what this lane's going to look like, and if he goes on me and I'm going to die, it's because 3 of my creeps die with caustic on them, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, in most situations, fort doesn't really help you, but like, if the way I die is my own creeps dying, fort is a tool in the game of Dota, right? Like, yeah. And it's like, you don't want to fort here, right? But what if you went into that same mindset 3 creep waves in a row, knowing that you had fortification if anything went real bad, right? Mm-hmm. Then you'd be getting 3 creep waves worth of farm in exchange for a fort. Like, that's completely worth it.
Yep.
Like, that's so worth it. So it's like, it's not about this 1 creep wave you're getting. It's the fact that you could do it again. It's the implied benefit of being able to do it again later, as long as you don't use your fort now. And if you do use your fort now, then you'd just not be able to have the same liberties later. You die here, or at least take as much damage as you did, because you acid sprayed like 3 seconds late. And it makes a huge difference against like Axe and Sand King and shit, right? Like heroes that punish you specifically based on creep health and amount of creeps and stuff. Missing these small windows punishes you really hard. It's like if you ever get called by an axe on top of 4 creeps, you're eating like 600 damage, right? Like you're eating a shit ton of damage. And that's why it's the same idea with Sand King, where it's just a slight mistiming by you. But you have to play this so clean as an Alch. As a hero that's sole purpose to hit creeps, you have to evade the opponent's strengths really seamlessly, like if you want to get the start you want. And so by the way, I will clump myself in. North American Dota does not teach you to be creative. It just doesn't. It teaches you to be efficient. That's how we look at the game. We're like, how fast can we kill creeps? How much GPM can I get? My timings are going to come online sooner than theirs. And I have only in the last year or 2 started to try to be creative. Think outside the box a little bit. And that's what I mean by using fortifications and like these random tools in the game where it's like, I want these creeps dead. This is how he's going to stop me. Is there any tool in my arsenal I can use to make it happen? And it's like, if you start thinking like that, suddenly you'll start coming up with these wonky solutions that you see these like tier 1 pro players doing. You're like, you see them using like these cool fortifications. You see them going like these random item builds that don't really make sense until you watch it play out. You see them doing some like random creep aggro that gets the lane near their tower. You see like these little things Thompson does, you know, like where he aggroes the creeps into the enemy tower so that they they die before the other guy respawns or whatever. It's like, you only come to that solution because you're objectively looking at the game 2 moves ahead. You're just like, okay, he went back to base. How can I punish this? Okay, Sand King benefits from the creeps being low. You know, how am I going to die if I do? You know? And a lot of carry, like I've told you, is just disaster aversion. So it's like, I always play away from the strengths of my opponent, and if I can't identify any strengths, what does that mean to me? I'm like worried about how strong this offlaner is, and if I can't identify what makes him strong, what does that mean to me? He's probably not very strong.
Okay.
You know, it's that simple.
You're looking for some Giga Brain
No.
answer.
It's like if I'm thinking about the way that this offlaner is threatening me, and I can't come up with an answer, I'm either about to learn something, or he ain't strong. That's like the 2 options, right? So that's like, it's kind of funny, but there's a lot of Dota that can be learned by recognizing that something doesn't exist. It's like, if you look at the minimap and you see, you know, the bottom lane pushed in, top lane pushed in, and no heroes are showing, it's like, that tells you a lot. Like, by not seeing them, you do see them. You know what I mean? Like, you know they're doing something as like 5. You know they're doing something. And it's like, in the lane, it's like, if I can't come up with a reason why he scared me, then the last thing I should do is be scared. But like, usually you just think, like, every hero in the game has a tool, right? For Sand King, it's Caustic predominantly. So it's like, when I see that, I would be playing around the creep's health like all the time. And that's a big difference between like 6k approach to laning and like 8, 9k, 10k approach to laning. So you were full mana and you're jungling earlier than you think you would want to. Can you agree with that?
Yeah.
So what do you think I'm getting at now that I mentioned this?
It's full mana, and I was jungling earlier than
Wouldn't it feel nice to just have like an extra 15 damage right now?
Yeah.
So this is an example where what's more important, how much you're killing them during a single acid spray, or how many acid sprays you get to use?
You're talking about Void Stone.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying here, though?
Yeah. Okay,
like,
yeah.
The thing is, I would rather you clear the camps more rapidly and then have to base or buy a couple extra clarities than I would for you to have the mana sustain. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a pretty big difference maker.
I don't know, I just defaulted to doing that because, I don't know, I try to live life as an alch, like, by not going back to base as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's important.
I understand where you're coming from, though,
Okay.
with the broadsword.
Yeah.
Because my friends told me the same thing, too, before.
I will say that if I had to make a guess on NA carries, from what I know, they would average going for the Perseverance over the damage components of Battle Fury. And I think it's good to default that way, but know that you have to recognize when the exception is better. And if you can get the default down, like you guys usually understand the default pretty well, but like the reason why the exception's true in this case is because you're jungling earlier than you want to. And I think that's a big step that like you 6k, 7k players don't do very well. It's like, okay, the default, but why is the default usually better? Because like when I get that first component of Voidstone or of Battle Fury, I'm usually still laning. So like Ursa goes for the Ring of Health because that's the item that helps him lane. It's like with Alch, if he is laning, he wants to just constantly be acid spraying. So that's why he goes for the Voidstone first. Like I've seen this. Like I don't think you're crazy for going the Voidstone first. But if you're just straight jungling and you're not actually laning against anybody in the jungle, then you just want to go the item that actually accelerates your jungling the fastest, right? Like so on somebody like on Alch, who's just right-clicking all these creeps under acid spray, it's definitely the damage. Let me rewind because I've been busy talking to you for a while. So this is the kind of stuff where if I don't talk about how this happened originally. So we see 3 bottom. You walk up to the triangle. You've almost got your Battle Fury complete. You're considering showing up to this fight. This seems reasonable. We see them collapsing on you entirely.
The reason why I stayed there is because I saw 3 fucking dots of my team sitting on the high ground by the ward there. And
Yeah,
they just
I don't
sat-
think I hate this. I don't think I hate this choice.
I was just like, where the fuck are you guys? Like,
Yeah, I think this is. I think what you did here was actually fine. That's why I had to rewind because I saw what was happening and I'm like, it either could have been avoided or it was fine. And I think what you did there was fine. The reason why is like if you had TP bottom, then the opponent's going to do the same thing where they chase you, but then your team has to also come chase you. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that's actually what I would call a negative reaction forced because either way you play it, you're getting ran at, but one of them your team's already there, and the other one your team has to inconvenience themselves to help you. So that's why I was like had to rewind and think about it for a second.
Bad TP too, actually. I don't know if I like it. I think that
I
what
actually
was going
think it's
through my head-
reasonable. I actually think this is a reasonable TP. So we'll ask you why you think it's bad, and then we'll kind of talk about it a bit.
Well, watching it now, like, it just seems bad to me because if I show bot, there's 4 heroes or 3 heroes mid that can just run at me and I have no counterplay. But I think what was going through my head was the fact that I was just ran at in my triangle and they probably expect me to be there. And
Okay.
so,
You know what? So we'll talk about this a bit. So this is an example where I'll actually get on your side here a bit. I do think this TP could be bad. So let's talk about it. So based on what we understand, what's like the opponent's like main objective on the map right now?
I'd say mid
Okay.
tower.
And if it's not an actual objective, what are they also trying to do?
Cancel me.
Yeah, they're just trying to fuck with you a lot. So, if possible, we always try to prevent them from being able to do both at once. You know, that's like obviously the best thing we can do. So my question would be, is that so they are going on your Shadow Demon right now. So like we look at the map and we see 3 heroes on Dire right here. So my question would be, what are these 3 heroes going to do next?
We're on top. Or jump or triangle. Or go mid.
Or go mid. So if they run top, you got to dip, right? And if they ran top and you TP bottom, do you think that would be a reasonable thing for you to do? Okay. So what am I getting at here?
Did I react too fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Killing spree.
I kind of just made the choice to go without
See?
actually.
And then they walk mid. So every time that you make these type of decisions, you're effectively saying they also ran top and mid. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Like they actually did both,
I'm
which
giving
they
them the
which they
balance.
shouldn't actually be able to do, right? Like they shouldn't be able to do both. And this is an example where if you know what decision they're going to make, you have to make that decision actually matter. For them, them running mid right now does everything they need. So why I initially said, I don't mind you TPing bottom is because Wraith King's pushing top. So after they go from top mid lane, where are they going to go next?
Top.
They're going to go top. So I was like, okay, he's actually avoiding the fight. But the thing is, you could have avoided the fight top, but you could have killed one more creep wave. What does that do?
Get me a shitload more gold.
It buys you 30 seconds. It buys you 30 seconds. Because if they're going to walk from mid to top, you know, that's an extra 30 seconds that it takes them because you cut their creep wave, right? And that's a big deal. Because that's, like you said, a lot of gold. It's the gold of the creep wave here itself, but it's also the gold that you could accrue in 30 seconds bottom. And at that point, they may be inclined to chase you bottom because it takes so long to get top tower. So you might even entirely save the tower. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you might have completely stopped them from wanting to take it. Okay. So let's see.
This is Gabe.
So now
Thanks for playing. Go to
you're gonna naturally farm away from them, push it out. You're gonna back
Kind of chill
off.
here.
Okay. So I'd say that we have about 10 minutes left. And do you have another hero that you've played recently that we can talk about real quick? Or is this all you wanted today?
Sure, we can do that. I think I've been winning on a lot of the other heroes. It's just Alchemist, just because it's like sometimes I just don't know how to
I want to
respond.
see you play like your best hero that you would be like BSJ. I feel real fucking good about this hero. And I just want to see like 10 or 15 minutes of it and we'll call it a session.
Okay. Let me pull up Dota real quick. Okay, I'd say that my best 2 right now are Monkey King and Juggernaut.
Let's watch a Monkey King game real quick.
All right.
Actually, you choose. Either one of those is fine.
I'll do MK because he's like my favorite hero. Although I don't really know that I did much in this game. It felt like one of those games my team kind of just popped off and I just had a free game.
Okay, let's check it out. I think it's people underestimate how much you can do wrong in a free game. So we'll quickly give it like 10, 15 minutes, see how you do in this game, see how I like your overall aggression and such.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there was one thing when I was playing, I just kind of felt awkward because I was like, I was farming, but I wasn't doing anything about where I was farming. Like I was like passively farming instead of aggressively. I think that's what went through my head after the game. But
Okay, let's check it out. Yeah, you got a lot of Monkey King games. You're against a Centaur Spear Breaker.
so I wanted to do something here, but I mean,
I'm personally a huge fan of starting Orb of Venom straight into Corrosion. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's usually what I do nowadays.
I feel like for me, it's like since I'm not gonna have Jingu, or I guess you can still deal damage, but it's not gonna be as effective.
You'd
It's
be
just-
surprised that, like, they just buffed Monkey King's base stats so much that, like, you can kind of just click people. So here's, like, this common misconception I think you and I've gone through this same process, is okay, ask yourself legitimately. If you were a hero, like Monkey King without Jingu, he's still pretty strong, right? Like, he hits for 57 damage, you have like a Boundless Strike, which is a pretty decent level 1 spell. You have 6 base armor, high HP regen, right? Like, if you objectively look at that, it's pretty strong, right? Like, level 1 compared to a decent amount of carries, right?
Yeah.
So, the problem is, we view it biased because Jingu used to be really fucking strong. Like, it used to be really fucking strong, right? So, we have this tendency. I just want you to think about how often you do this, because I know based on what you said, you do this sometimes at least, and I know I do it too, is that you'll have played a hero in the past, and they used to operate really well in some capacity, and then it got nerfed. But the fact is, they're still strong, but it just is less strong, so it feels weak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By this? It's like, if you just had an Orb of Venom right here while he's running away from these creeps, it would be objectively better than what you're doing right now. You would have gotten an extra 2 or 3 hits on him. That's an extra, like, 120 damage. And it's like, it adds up. And no offlaner really wants, no melee offlaner really wants to trade with a Monkey King, even if you don't have Jingu. You just have really good stats. The only heroes that want to trade with you are the ones that aren't actually trading. They're like just hitting you. They're like the Venos, the Vipers, Bat Riders. These heroes, the ones you're facing, they don't want to trade with you. So don't be biased because Jingu used to be way stronger than it is. Try to be more objective, like in the Alk game, where it's like, Alk, maybe not the best laner, but with Acid Spray, he's actually pretty decent. So this is a big thing, real quick. So, okay, based on what your Warlock did, what are they going to do?
Oh, they're gonna contest it, obviously.
Okay, what do you want to do if they contest it?
I feel like personally, I can deal damage, but I don't kill them, and I'm missing a full wave under my tower.
But are
Maybe
you
the-
stronger than them? Like, would you like to fight them?
100% stronger than
So
them.
you want to be here?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you have to do to be there?
Fuck.
Why? What is making you not want to be here now?
The creeps. So
Okay,
then I have
so
to
what should you have done?
Aggro them down.
You should be on the left side.
Oh.
Getting the creeps, picking them up is what I like to call it. Just picking up some creeps real quick and dragging them over here, right?
Yeah.
How hard is that? Is that actually that complicated?
No.
Right?
That was,
Just pick up the creep wave. You telling me you don't want to be here because of the creeps. How is that your answer when you could just pick up the creeps? Like, think to yourself, I've had these realizations myself too, so let me just be very clear. But how stupid do you feel right now? It's like,
Pretty dumb.
you could have just picked up the fucking creeps. It's like, you're telling me you want to do this, but you want the creeps. Why can't you just do both? You know what I mean? Like, why are you choosing? So that's the funny part about this situation. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, damn, I sound so fucking dumb. Like, after you play it out. It's just funny. So now you're forced to separate away from them. This is a situation where if you're in control of the lane, you want everything that's happening to happen in the same place, right? If you're at the disadvantage, you'd rather avoid them. So it's like, if you were weaker, you'd play the way you just played. If you're stronger, you should do what I said. And that just comes down to, like, that encompasses every lane matchup and shit. Okay. Okay, posturing pretty aggressive. Okay.
No, I threw the boundless out to
To
make sure the warlock
interrupt
didn't.
yeah, okay. I see it. I see it. You've got boots.
Not orthodox, but effective.
No dodge of the stun, SMH. You did it this time.
Hello, I'm Gabe Newell.
You know what's so funny about that? I even see hesitation with you to help them because of these creeps.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. The way my brain is wired right now, like you weren't wrong when you said it before. It's just creeps, creeps, creeps.
It's just
so-
creeps, creeps, creeps. These creeps can be later, man. Do you mind fighting these guys with these creeps chasing you?
No, no.
You don't mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't mind. Objectively speaking, the creeps will come with you. Like, they'll come along. They don't have a choice. Like, they are coded to follow you here. So, you know, it's just funny. I see this and I'm like, you end up helping, but I saw that hesitation. You know, I saw it. And he ended up getting him, but it was just so funny. I'm like, I could see him, like, fighting the urge to stay in lane when he actually isn't choosing between the creeps or the engagement. Like, there are some times, by the way, that you will have to make a choice between those two creeps and that engagement.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're not willing to do it here says a lot, you know? That's just kind of funny. It's just kind of funny that, you know, you see it now yourself. Okay.
Again, just kind of.
I do think you're willy-nilly with your stun a little bit. I don't think you had to use it there at all. I think you can recognize that you walking over there is scary to them. And so the minute you stun them, you're like way less scary. Do you like understand that?
Yeah.
You see
The
like
warlock
when,
wasn't gonna die, right?
yeah,
I
it's
understand
like,
the point you're getting. That would be like my only reason of doing that is to make sure warlock didn't
yeah,
die.
if he was like, you know, on the brink of death and he will barely escape because you stun. Like, that's something I think about, by the way. If I'm going to help my support, what am I using my stun for? You know? And in this case, it is because he's, like, on the brink of death, and you have to save him. But otherwise, I'm going to walk at them and see what happens. Like, I think of the extreme, and then I wait for information otherwise. What were you going to say?
I don't think I auto-default to stunning, like... I mean, maybe I did there. I'm not sure, because I honestly don't remember if the warlock was slow or not. I think the choice that I made was more so to make sure the warlock was never gonna just die and go down.
But the thing is, you're like thinking, if I were to stun here, it would be to help the warlock. You're not thinking we could just maybe kill these guys, or like I could just run at them and bully. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell the way you're talking to me about this engagement is you view it as an inconvenience to you. Like, you don't want to be over there. Doesn't it feel like that, the way you're talking about it? Like, the only reason I can imagine you stunning there is because you want this engagement to just be done. Like, you're like, get away from my warlock, I'm going back to these creeps. Is that, like, not kind of what you're thinking? Right?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, so, like, that's why I'm emphasizing to you that you actually don't mind being over here. Don't feel too bad that you're leaving, like, a creep or two behind at worst case scenario. There's so much potential benefit you're missing out on. It's like...
Okay.
Be more content with missing a creep or two for the sake of engagement that you're perfectly capable of being part of, right? Don't view that as an inconvenience. It's like, yes, you're trying to minimize the amount of creeps you're missing, but just think, like, you're mainly carrying how much net worth you have and creeps you have in comparison to the centaur. That's what I need you to understand, because if you're fucking the centaur up, like, if you miss 1 or 2 creeps and he misses 4 or 5, that's always good for you. Like, even if the opponent carries having a really good game, that's always good for you. Because if the opponent offlaner is a complete fucking liability to his team, that's going to accelerate your farm. That's going to, like, decelerate his ability to help his team. There's, like, so many implied benefits from that. So it's, like, especially when you're a Monkey King. You know, you're Monkey King, Ursa's, like, these heroes that can potentially just fuck the offlaner. You don't need to always try to fuck them. It's like, if I'm against, like, Vipers and Venos, like I said, these, like, lane ruiners, I don't try to fuck them. I just try to survive. But if I'm, like, Monkey King against a melee hero, I'm trying to fuck them. You know, like, I'm trying to ruin their game. Because Monkey Kings and Ursas, they are the ones that... They're like the safe lane equivalent of the Vipers and the Venos. Right? They don't really kill your buildings, but they make it really annoying to ever want to lane against them. Right? Like, that, it just sucks. So, yeah. Definitely just a quick a quick reassessment for yourself. Like I played a lot of Monkey King, maybe like 80 games prior to the Quakefa sessions, but after like the way he talked to me about the map, I'm just saying that I know it's possible to play a lot of a fucking hero and still have your mind completely changed about the approach to it. So here, my biggest issue. So I'm gonna ask you right now. What is inconvenient to you? What's like the most inefficient thing to go on in the game at all right now?
For me?
Like, what do you want to do? You want to do exactly what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're inconvenienced, but the thing is, your hero is capable of helping, right?
Yeah.
So, what?
I think
Go ahead.
the biggest inconvenience for me would be having to exactly what you're seeing right now. Like, I know my team's not defending mid. I'm not trying to give that shit up free, and I don't necessarily want to leave my lane that I'm doing very well in.
Okay. So, on top of this, what if your Warlock gets engaged on over here? Why is it, like, inconvenient for you?
I guess because, I mean, I don't want to sound stupid, but creeps, like...
Yeah, so, the way I look at this is, why aren't you leveling a single point of your W? Just a single point. Because everything that's inconvenient for you, it just takes way less time if you can just get there faster.
Okay.
Do you see how, like, leveling a single point in your W makes you, like, way scarier over here? And it also saves you creeps, because if you ever have to use it, it's like, do you need this 4th point Jingu or the 3rd point Boundless to control this lane?
No.
The only time I've ever seen this skill build is against a Timbersaw in professional Dota. And that's because they actually needed every single aspect of every single point to actually fight the Timbersaw melee versus melee with Monkey King. It's like, if you have 2 points Boundless or just 3 points Jingu, you still fuck this Centaur, dude. So now just make it so you can do other things as well. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're like double downing on something that you've already got enough money on, you know? So that's how I want you to think about that. It's inconvenient for you to leave this spot, so make that inconvenience less inconvenient rather than like you need more to be good in this spot. This spot's okay with you. You're fine with this. I think if you had your W there, you would have just W'd and chased him. I feel like he just walked back in and died for like no reason there.
Yeah, that's kind of a bad TP, but
No, I don't hate it. You know, if you make that TP and your immediate feeling is to walk back top and just do what you're doing, then whatever. I don't think it's bad because you come back to this lane and you don't actually mind what's happening here. Like if you may not like it because you're a carry player, but I have no issue if 2 melee heroes and enchanters want to run into me when I'm Monkey King. If they want to fucking do that shit, they're dumb. You know, let them fucking do it. Like, that's why I don't mind you TPing mid and then walking back bottom, because like you're not afraid of them with your movements. You're just trying to make sure they don't get too much out of the map. So don't feel bad about that TP. If you make a TP because you know you could potentially help, and then nothing ends up happening, and you just... Notice how after you TP'd, was your game ruined? When you just walked back top?
no, it was
No, those TPs should feel pretty good. But, like, if you're laning top under the premise that if somebody else on their team goes top, you're immediately leaving, that is when that TP mid could have been really bad. Do you see the difference there? It's like, say you're a safe lane Alk against, like, an Ursa or a Troll, and you TP'd mid, and then you walk back top, and that guy just shows up in your lane. And you're like,
GG, go next.
yeah, it's like, well, now I don't have a TP for 50 seconds, and I'm in my safe lane. So I'm fucked. But in this game, because you're completely content with whatever move they make towards your lane, then who cares? You're like, okay, like, the only negative side of it is you couldn't TP mid again. Like, that's the only negative side, but that doesn't ruin your game, you see? How that's different? That doesn't ruin your game. That just makes you slightly less present on the map. But that's like a reasonable thing to do if it's like a in the moment decision towards TPing to a tower. Yeah, the enemy team's kind of just following you, which is peculiar.
I kind of fucked up here.
And you know, whatever.
No one saw that.
Yeah, nobody saw it. Honestly, the tower is what matters. So. Don't overthink those. That stun was very unnecessary.
Why?
I mean, why did you stun? Did I miss something?
I do. Oh, it's to just clear the wave faster. I guess you're right. It's sorry. I was just kind of.
I mean, that's an incredibly lazy stun.
Okay.
If you had absolutely full mana, maybe.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's similar to that Alk Acid Spray. Like, in that game, you could have just dragged into tower. In this game, you could have just, like, let the creeps do it. Like, most of the work. I think you would have gotten at least 1 or 2 of those creeps. It's just opportunity cost. Also, like, your team's there is, like, 3 heroes with you. So the minute you stun, you're pretty useless. If I'm ever scared of Spearbreaker, by the way, I just wouldn't use my stun.
Okay.
I've played against Spearbreaker as Monkey King a few times. I held my stun a lot more up because I just, if he ever charges me, you just stun him. And, he's useless. So the way you're playing the map is fine. You were very active early. This is the nature of Monkey King at this stage in the game. He kind of like, he needs to take a chill pill for a bit. You definitely stun way too much. I don't think you realize how useless your hero is with no boundless. Do you, like, realize that? Like, your hero's fucking god-awful with no boundless, dude. Like,
Yeah,
you realize that, right? You've played a shit ton of Monkey King. You realize, like, a scale of strength and threat, you're like an 8 or a 9 when you have boundless, and you're like a 3 when you don't, right? Because your boundless is what makes this ability scary.
Yeah.
And obviously you needed to set this up too, so I just want you to think about that. That you're definitely stunning in a way that you're strong, and you're just making yourself not strong. I don't actually know how else to say it. Like, when you're laning against the Monkey King, or when you're laning against the Void bottom, or like farming against him there, it seems like you're trying to get out and be done. When I'm thinking, he actually has to be afraid of you there. And the minute you use Boundless, if I'm the Void, I'm like, okay, I'll finish this wave and then TP out or something, you know? You're no longer a threat to me. Same idea with that stun. Dude, your stunning is terrible.
Being too liberal about
Dude,
my
it's
stuff.
terrible, dude. Be patient. You do not need to use your stuns nearly as early in the fights and engagements as you are.
Okay.
That probably goes for a lot of other heroes. I don't think this ever this type of thing is it's very rarely specific. The only time it would be specific to a hero is if you're really new to the hero. So based on the fact that you've played a lot of Monkey King and you use your stuns like that, you need to realize, like, you're the kind of guy as Slark that if the guy's close to you, you're pouncing. Like, that's you. There's no way you're the kind of guy that holds a pounce like I try to teach how to hold pounce. Like, I think it's a really important skill on Slark. So all I'm saying is, like, if you play this hero a lot, it would carry over to your other heroes. So I want you to just realize, like, when you're top, it almost feels like everything I'm seeing, you're, like, viewing these engagements as an inconvenience. Like, it really does feel like that. It actually feels like that. Like, it feels like you're like, okay, I've stunned, I'm done here. You know?
I mean,
like,
that's the mindset of
I'm telling you, man.
Gold.
I understand.
It's through my head, man. I don't know.
Dude, there's no other explanation. There's just no way you could be 6k MMR and just stun like this, other than feeling like you don't want to be here. Like, it's like when you were laning against the Void there, I want you to realize from this guy's perspective. Let's rewind, and this will be the end of the session, okay? I'm going to rewind real quick.
Okay.
Because this will hopefully change your mind drastically as, like, a last point here. How do you feel of your Void right now?
A little bit scared.
Are you like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy?
Like, as the Void?
Yeah.
Or
As the Void. Like, look
I
at what
don't-
he sees. What do you represent to him? Like, why would he be confident to go on you or scared of you? Like, why?
I think he'd be confident because he has Chronosphere. I think he'd be scared because I have Ags and I kill him in Chronosphere and all this.
You have Ags and you're next to your own tier 1.
Okay.
Like, the emphasis I give is, do both of you kind of threaten each other?
A little bit.
Right? Both of you kind of threaten each other?
Mm-hmm.
So what determines who threatens who more is just where you are on the map. So, like, if this was, like, Void farming midwave, like right here, I would want you to, like, stun from the trees and play defensive. But, like, based on the map you are right now, there's just no way he's getting fucking help here. Like, look at what we see. Like, he's not getting any help here. You see that, right? pretty clearly with the information you're presented. So we're giving you his perspective. And the reason why I give you his perspective is he should know, based on what you see, that he's not getting any help. So he knows that you know he's not getting any help. Okay? So in that case, if he ever goes on you, I would diagnose him clinically insane. Like, he's just nuts. Like, what is he fucking doing underneath your tier 1, right? Like, you just get a single TP from, like, an Invoker or, you know, your... Oh, never mind. I thought he'd have, like, an Orchid or something. You get, like, a single TP from your Invoker, and that guy's just going to feed, right? This guy's just dead if he chronos you, and like, he's not going to kill you full to 0. There's just no way. You're really tanky. So, this is the emphasis I give you, is that the second you're Void here, and you see this, look at it, he was ready to time walk away from you, dude. Like, he was actually time walking away from you, and then he's just, like, he's willing to farm these camps. Imagine if you just walked at this guy instead of stunning, and what could you do right here?
If I walked at him when he time walk, I could tree dance and then just get on top of him.
You could actually just walk at him again, and then you get the big camp from him. Okay. Why would it be so important that you take the big camp from him? Because it's 1607. You can just come right back to these creeps, can't you?
Yeah.
But the point that I'm saying is there's so much potential benefit. In this case, I'm naming, like, specifically that maybe you could follow him to the big camp. But there's so much potential benefit of leaving yourself as a threat. But, like, the second you stun there, if I'm the Void, I know I can do whatever the fuck I want before I'm getting out of here. You know, I'm like, I'm going to get out, but I can clear this big camp, I can clear the small camp, and I'm walking away. Do you see the difference there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm saying, is that a lot of this stuff that you guys miss around the 6K, 7K level is potential opportunities. And in lane, you guys are not setting yourself up for them a lot of time. You're giving the opponent a lot more opportunities than they should based on what you know about their heroes. It's like, if I'm against the Sand King, I'm never walking up to the creeps when they're low. If they're full health, I feel very confident. That's like an example where you're putting yourself in position to not get punished, and then you're avoiding opportunities to get punished. This is an example where, like, if you were playing aggressively on Sand King when all your creeps are full health, what's he gonna fucking do about it? It's like, if you just walk in this Void and hold on to your stun, what's he gonna fucking do about it? Like, he's not gonna do anything. He can't do anything. And maybe your Invoker TPs and you have stun. You're the kind of guy where I'll TP in to help you because I think there's an opportunity, and you ping your stun on cooldown. Like, that's you. That happens a lot when I'm playing with, like, 7K players, where, like, whatever ability they have to help me, or, like, the ability to TP or some shit, where they could have walked to a lane, instead they TP'd, they just say, oh, it's on cooldown. And you guys think nothing of it. Like, you actually think nothing of it. You're like, like, you know, I had to TP to go farm or whatever. But there's usually a way that you could have done it differently. In this case, it's just like, hold on to your stun. It's so simple, but yet it makes such a drastic difference on your impact in the game. So a lot of this stuff is foresight and, like, potential opportunities for you that you don't necessarily realize you're missing. Okay. I think I've overloaded you a bit, though. Definitely work on these things one thing at a time. You said you're going to go take your 5K account. I think that's really important. Grind yourself out on the chess idea. You said you're playing chess 2 moves ahead. That's the emphasis. 30 seconds. 1 creep wave ahead. What's your next play?
Just go into every game thinking that.
Yep, and you're going to fucking botch a lot of basic mechanic shit. You're going to miss a bunch of random CS. You're going to shit yourself a little bit, but the goal is after maybe, like, a couple weeks, it'll drastically, you'll be like, damn, I see the game in a new light. And everyone's a little bit different. Every concept's a little bit different. But I can just tell you that, I use the Quake for session because I'm still applying that shit. It just feels so much nicer to view Dota more clearly, even if it's not necessarily paid off yet. So hopefully you can enjoy the same feeling. So thanks for signing up, man. Any final questions?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for the advice.
Best of luck. I better see you in my games sometime soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, that was a good session. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that shenanigans, because at the end of the day, YouTube does care about that. You may not care about it, I may not care about it, but the YouTube algorithm does. So please do.